I'm tired. I'm wasted. I love you, Gerald.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Two Peas on a Podcast. Gerald is back in the saddle, and of course, Nick is along for the ride as well. Nick, what's up, brother?
I did not hit her. It's not true. Hi.
I-
How's it going, buddy?
What's up, man? How are you?
How you
Our
how you
first
doing?
ever roulette review tonight. We're doing we spun the wheel a couple weeks ago, and we landed on Nick. So Nick got to choose the movie that we reviewed, and he chose The Room from Tommy Wiseau from 2003. I had never seen it, which is a point of reference for tonight. Aside from seeing, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 clips over the years, I've never seen the movie from
And you saw
start
the
to finish.
Disaster Artist.
I did see The Disaster Artist, and I actually rewatched that one as well this weekend.
Oh wow! Okay.
I did a double feature. So
Wow. Okay.
we'll get into all that. Up top here, real quick, I want to say thank you to Brad, our boy from the Cinema Guys, who came over last week and filled in for me. You guys did a great job covering The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which was a film that I didn't expect you to like, and you dug it. I think you gave it a 7, which is a great score from you.
I did. That was your score too.
It was, yeah. We matched up. I'm sorry I didn't get your text. I was really drunk that evening.
No, you know what the best part for me was, and like when I didn't hear back from you, I was like, because I had to text you to like figure out how to do like the StreamYard thing and everything like that.
Yeah, right.
And so I had to get in touch with you, and then I didn't hear back from you again, and I was like, you know what? He went off to go enjoy his vacation, and that's the most important thing that you should do. So I'm really glad that you did that and had a good trip with the family and everything.
It's funny too, man, because thank you for that. But it's funny because my phone does this thing where, and I set it up like 2 years ago, where at 10 o'clock it goes into Do Not Disturb.
Yeah.
And I think you had texted me the first question prior to 10, and then you did the follow up text after 10. So I didn't even get it till the next morning because my phone was on D&D. But yeah, I was a little tipsy, so my score may not have been straight at that time, but. Yeah, I dug that film, and I loved hearing you guys talk about it. So a big shout out to Brad, and I'm glad that he was able to keep the ball rolling here on the new format and joined us last week. So that was awesome. And it's like I don't even need to be here, but I came back. I'm back.
It is. It's true, and somehow you got back in the door. I don't know how, but I mean, I guess welcome back. I know the audience must have missed you, though. I know they love those beautiful, sultry tones that pour out of your bearded face. So.
That's
welcome
happens,
back, and I'm really glad that you had a good vacation. That's
man, it was great.
Thing to me.
Yeah, it was great, man. And I was telling you I'm back to work tomorrow, which kind of sucks, but life goes on. It is what it is. Vacations are great, and we got to spend some good family time. So, thanks for holding it down while I was out, man. Now, The Room we're discussing tonight, but before we get there, of course, Nick, we're gonna dive into one big question.
You gotta ask yourself a question.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
So one big question, I got mine. I came up with it a couple days ago when I was watching, actually, The Disaster Artist, because I did a double feature, I was telling you.
Okay.
So I kind of thought of it as I was watching that, which was, obviously related to The Room. But I have kind of a general question that Disaster Artist kind of brought to mind for me that I want to ask you. But you just came up with yours, you were telling me. So do you want me to go first? Or?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So James Franco, I feel like, missed out. It was a snub that year. I mean, his performance as Tommy in The Disaster Artist, he really, really embodied that character and became that dude, and did this kind of delicate thing where it was kind of like funny because obviously people poke fun at The Room, which I mean, that's what you do, but it was also kind of like beautiful and like tragic, and it really captured kind of both sides of what I feel like Tommy was at that point in his life. And I thought James Franco did a really, really good job bringing that to life for us and kind of the behind the scenes vision that we didn't really get prior to that movie. So it got me thinking, Nick, what actor working today would you trust to really get your message out there, that would really do you justice and would be the true Nick on screen?
The true Nick on screen.
That would embody your worst parts, and it would embody the best of you. And
wow. You know what? So I've got a fun answer and I've got the serious answer. Okay.
All right.
So the fun answer, because everybody tells me that I look like him or that he looks like me, and he also has really like loud and like hoarse, obnoxious kind of laugh like I do sometimes. Everybody always tells me like how much I'm like Seth Rogen. So Seth Rogen's my fun answer. Because I always get that from people that I look like Seth Rogen or like whatever the case is. I don't think my laugh is not as bad as his. Like, my laugh is not like that. So I don't think I have. I think he's got me beaten on the laugh. But that's my fun answer. Depending on what kind of movie you're trying to make. But like my serious answer, just because dude's got like impossibly amazing range, even though I wasn't a fan of him in his latest performance in The Flash. Michael Shannon, I love him. He's good in everything. His range, he could pull off this, no problem. He could do this in a heartbeat.
Sure. No and actually I like the Rogen answer too, because Rogen's got a little bit of range too. I mean, he's done some, he's known for comedy, but I mean, he can get down with the dramatic stuff.
He can put the chops on when he really wants to. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I thought of one for me would be J.K. Simmons. And I don't know if it's because the gray beard and the bald head and kind of aging a little bit, but I feel like J.K. Simmons would really bring out the best like animated qualities of me and be really boisterous, but he could also be super calm and collected. And that's the first actor that came to mind.
We'd get more of a Juno kind of J.K. Simmons in a performance of Gerald, not so much a like Spider-Man, like J. Jonah Jameson kind of performance, because that's not you're not that, but he does that kind of quiet, subdued thing really well too, though. Maybe a touch of the whiplash in there, depends on how mad somebody makes you. Like when you're arguing with Dan, you just want to whip a chair across the room at him.
The scenes with Dan, I've definitely whiplashed J.K. Simmons. All right, well, you did good there, man. I like it.
Let's cast Dan. I want to cast Dan in this movie. Who's playing Dan? And he's being both of ours, because we both know Dan pretty well. He's been a part of both of our lives.
I'm thinking of Curtis Armstrong, the guy that played Booger in Revenge of the Nerds. Why am I thinking of that guy for Dan? Dan, I love you. I'm sorry. He was in A Risky Business, Better Off Dead. He was a huge star in the 80s. Wow. But I don't know why. The 80s version of Curtis Armstrong came to mind. So anyway. All right, you got a question for me, bud?
All right, I do. So you riffed on the disaster artist for your question, and I thought of the same thing for my question. But my big question, what other so bad it's good movie, because that is the legacy of this movie. It's considered one of those movies that's quote-unquote so bad it's good. What so bad it's good movie should get the disaster artist treatment? Now, that was one of my favorite movies of 2017, I think it was, when it came out, because you're exactly right. It takes this, it doesn't mock it. It has fun with it, but it doesn't mock The Room, like knowing it's one of these like really, really bad movies. You know, it's not mocking of it, and it treats it in a way of it really respects it in its own way and what it's able to achieve, what it's able to accomplish, whatever. What other so bad it's good movie should get that disaster artist treatment, do you think? And I know there've already been some, like Burton did. What was it the guy that did Plan 9 from Outer Space or whatever?
Oh, Ed Wood, yeah.
Ed Wood, yeah.
Yeah, that was more about him as a filmmaker as opposed
to.
But there was like a lot of.
If you could have like just like the straight up recreations of scenes, like literally perfect and all that stuff, like literally the disaster artist level treatment.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of another one, and it's the first one that popped in my head because I freaking love this movie, and I love the actor / comedian that helmed it, and he was kind of like a big deal in the early to mid 90s. Pauly Shore. Did you ever see Son-in-Law?
Oh my god!
Did you ever see that movie where he like lives on a farm and he's from he's a surfer dude from Cali?
I mean, it's a Pauly Shore movie, buddy.
Exactly.
You don't have to tell me it's bad, buddy.
Exactly. But I was a huge fan of it, and like I was kind of a stoner at that time in my life. But going forward now, I still love it, and I'm always like kind of fascinated that people like hate it so much. And also kind of knowing, I feel like it would be super interesting to get the right actor to play Pauly Shore and kind of try to figure out what it was like to be him at that point, because he was huge. Like he was doing the MTV thing, and you got to imagine he was living 100 miles an hour every day, and just so I don't know. I feel like that would be an interesting, and the son-in-law and some other stuff that he did could be kind of filming on at the same time, kind of like what they did in the Disaster Artist as well.
I mean, like for me, it's just, God. Who plays Pauly Shore in that action? We don't have to answer that, but that's what I'm kind of trying to think of.
I think it would be
plays Pauly Shore.
You'd have to get an unknown probably. You'd have to get somebody that is young and up and coming and is unknown. I feel.
You know what I really want to see? Like all those YouTube reacts, like people do YouTube reacts for movies they've never seen, like first time watching this or whatever. I want someone that's like 18 years old to just watch nothing but like 90s stoner movies, like 90s Pauly Shore movies, 90s Brendan Fraser movies, not The Mummy, but I'm talking like Encino Man, like all that
Encino
kind of
Man,
stuff.
yeah, sure.
Like like I want somebody who just watches only those movies and just like straight up 100% serious reviews of them. I was going to say, wonder if that stuff holds up today.
I was going to say, and how it stands today, it's hard because like I lived through it, so I don't look at it through that lens of somebody that wasn't around at that era. So for me, it's like perfectly normal. It's like like one of my favorite movies is Reality Bites, which is just like 1990s like grunge aesthetic and like, but I lived through that, So I've had people watch it today and they're like, "What? This sucks!" Like, what are you talking about? So,
well, it's like like American Pie's like that for me, where I know, believe me, I know how problematic it is, but like I was literally graduating from high school at the time that movie came out, so those characters are going through the same thing that I'm going through, not necessarily with the scoring aspect of it necessarily, but the just kind of like getting ready to move on to that next stage of your life sort of thing in high school or whatever, and then so that movie always has a special place in my heart just because of that. So mine, I was just on So Wizard not too long ago to do this because they hit $1,000 during their live stream for the Cure segment, and we reviewed Neil Breen's Fateful Findings. I don't care what Neil Breen movie it is. You take your pick of the Neil Breen movie. Even if it's Twisted Pair, like I need to see like the behind the scenes making of like someone getting a paper printout of a mustache taped to their face. I need that in my life. I need to see that like behind the scenes and see like someone dive into the genius of Neil Breen and explore that. That was a lot of fun going on So Wizard to talk about that movie. If you go check that out, but any Neil Breen movie, I don't care what it is. Just sign me up. I'm there. 100%.
Those guys were great. I heard you discussing that with them when you went on there a few weeks ago. So I need to check that out. But if The Room is any indication, then I don't know if I'm ready for it, man. All right. So that was it for one big question. Now, Nick, you and I going on 8 years of knowing each other, friendship, podcasting together. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Early score reveal for Tommy Wiseau's The Room, and then we will get into the full-fledged review here. By the way, we're not even going to do a spoiler-free section this week. I just want to let everyone know. So after we reveal our scores and we start discussing the movie, there will be spoilers for The Room and probably for The Disaster Artist as well, because I want to talk a little bit about that and its kind of relationship to the movie. So just so everyone knows, spoiler alert for The Room going forward. All right, Nick, you ready?
Damn it, this always happens. I think I'm going to score and then I never score. It's not fair.
It's going to be all right, man. All right. I have a whole thing after this score reveal that we're going to get into, a whole discussion I want to have with you, an explanation of my actions. I apologize up front, but early score reveal for The Room, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Nick, you ready?
10 out of 10, baby.
A freaking 2, bro.
No, that's it. No.
A freaking 2 out of 10 for me. A numero dos. Nick left the stream.
How dare you, sir?
Hold on. I think my StreamYard was confused even when I gave it a 2. I started freezing up there, and then I don't know what was happening. All right, look, man. All right, look.
going forward, no spoiler section this week because this movie is 20 years old. There's not really a whole lot of anything to spoil in it anyway. Kind of. Most people know what this movie is, and if you're here for this movie, you kind of already understood the assignment. So, yeah, no spoiler section or anything like that this week. We're going to dive straight in to Tommy Wiseau's masterpiece, The Room.
Master something. All right, look. Now, I had a dilemma. I want to talk to you a little bit about this at the top here, and maybe we can discuss this for people that are listening that love or hate The Room or whatever. Probably kind of wonder this as well. It was really, really tough for me because I'd never seen it, and I watched it by myself, which I think may have hurt the experience as well for me at home on a copy that you sent me on my computer. So it wasn't like the best setup for this kind of movie, I don't feel like. Now, my dilemma, Nick, that clearly you don't have, giving it the 10 out of 10 that you did, is am I grading it as a film, okay? Or am I grading my experience of the film? Now, hearing all the sound drops on the old EFG days that you've done and live stream for The Cure and all the different clips and memes and the Disaster Artist, which I loved. So I've seen a lot of stuff that has to do with Tommy Wiseau and that has to do with The Room that I really respect and I really like. But when I just look at this film, okay, that's where my 2 comes from. Because this is one of the fucking worst things I've ever seen from a movie-making perspective. And I'm talking acting, scripts, I mean, music. I mean, we could go, and we probably will dive into some of these. But if I'm talking about, like, because there were times I laughed a lot during this, and I was texting you as I was watching it. Like,
yep,
it makes you laugh, but also that wasn't Tommy's intent when he wrote it too, which I don't know. You love this movie, man. You saw it in the theater a couple months ago for the anniversary. I know you're a huge fan. I'm sorry, brother. Like, it's weird because it's like I gave it a 2, but because of like the lore of this film and all the things that I kind of have had in my psyche from different points when I've seen different things, I don't hate it though. Does that make sense? Like, I gave it a bad score, but it's not like I hate it. And to be honest with you, I would love to see this movie again with you guys, with friends of mine and with a group of people. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, I feel like that would be a different score than me just grading the movie itself.
That score is going up by the end of this review, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to slowly, but surely tick up by the end of this review.
You must be kidding, aren't you?
You must be kidding,
Exactly.
Gerald. A 2 out of 10. But yeah, so let me back this up before we really get into the meat of this thing. I love this movie. And when I rate movies, like, let's just put this right on the table right now. I don't associate, like, I have to be objective versus subjective or any of that kind of different thing.
Sure.
Like, it's all about my emotional response to it. It's all about how the movie makes me feel and my enjoyment level of it. So this movie, like, when you watch it with a group of people, it's better. I had the privilege, and I will say that a privilege, of seeing this in a theater for the 20th anniversary back at the end of June. Fathom Events did a thing where, you got to go in there, and then they had little snippets of interviews with, like, Greg Sestero, Tommy Wiseau, and like some of the people in the cast and whatever. And then, like, you got to just, like, enjoy the movie with a whole bunch of other people who are also in that theater for the exact same reason you are, which is to yell out all of the quotes during the entire thing, and to just laugh and have fun and whatever. Now you say you're just like, it's not Tommy's intent, and I agree with you. Tommy would disagree because he tries to rewrite history and be like, no, I made this genius black comedy. I did it. It was all intentional all along.
Sure.
No, it wasn't. But I think because it transformed into that, like, for me, there is an enjoyment that I derive from this just on a purely magical kind of passionate level, because at the end of the day, when you walk away from this movie, and people may agree with this, people may disagree with this, no matter how bad it is on the screen, and there are some things in this movie that are bafflingly bad, like baffling decisions that were made that it just mystify any viewer of anything. But what is on the screen, I feel like, and you and I have both seen so many soulless movies, I would say, so many movies that literally are movies by committee, movies made by people without any passion who don't care. And I think of anything, I think you cannot say it. And that's one of the things that The Disaster Artist really highlights about this movie too, is how, like, maybe he's as talented as a stick of mud, but he cared, and he really did try to apply himself passionately to make something really great. It's kind of the same thing with like the Neil Breen movies. Like when I was just on So Wizard watching it, like, yeah, it's not good by any like objective measure at all, but like I had so much fun with it. Like, I come away from it on such a high. Like, my experience of it is so strong that I can't rate it anything but. I really can't rate it anything.
I love you.
It's so fun.
I love you. The first like 10 or 15 minutes of this movie, okay, I'm watching it. We have like a living room area in the front of the house, and we have like a den in the back of the house. And I decided to put this on because I had to hook my computer up because you sent it to me. So I put it on in the front of the house where I don't usually watch movies. And it's right below my kids' bedrooms. All right. And the first 10, 15 minutes or so is literally nothing but Tommy's ass and, you know, having sex, and this little kid that lives next door to them gets in the bed with him at one point, Denny. I guess he's supposed to be 15 or 16, I don't know. It was a lot of weird noises and shit, and it was like Teddy Pendergrass Motown music playing fucking rose petals and shit. I mean, it was like I was turning the volume down because I'm like, my kids are going to think I'm down here doing their mother. Like, this is crazy. So when it just became really awkward, like right off the bat. And I'm just like, what the fuck am I in for here? I mean, I knew the movie was ridiculous based on just the lore of it, but I was like, what am I doing? What is this? I was texting you, like, and then we get through that. 10 minutes. Okay, we get through that. Awkward. Like cringy, I would say. Okay. And then there's another sex scene not even a few minutes later with Greg and what's the Lisa? And
Juliet Danielle,
yeah. And or I should say Mark. I'm sorry, Mark and Lisa on the stairs. Which, by the way, what position were they in? I don't know. And there's one point where I'm pretty sure she fingered his asshole. Right? I texted you that. Is that right or no? Did that happen? Or did I just witness?
There's a shot where she like slips her hand into like the back of his pants, but like it never goes down past like the first knuckle. Gerald, like it's not like the whole hand just disappears in there, and then we cut to a reaction shot of Greg Sestero where he's just like, "Woo!"
Yeah, right. I wish. No, dude, this is where I'm at. Okay, in the first 15, 20 minutes of this movie, I'm just like, this is the most awkward, cringy. Virtually no dialogue yet to this point. Just a lot of rolling around in the hay with different characters. And I mean, it's fair to say that the movie is very disjointed in terms of like, what's the narrative? Like, what is the story here? Like, I get there's like, you know, she thinks Tommy's not good enough for her, or like she doesn't love him anymore or whatever. And she's in love with his best friend, Mark. So there's a bit of a love triangle thing going on there. But, man, it was so cringy, Nick. It was really, really
Did
tough.
you know that Johnny and Mark are best friends?
In the movie?
Yeah.
Because
the movie tells you that about 50,000 times.
But I thought you meant, like, did I know it from, like, just witnessing it? No, I mean, it told me. Yeah, if it told me, and there was a lot of redundancy, anyway, in the dialogue, tons. I'm trying to think of the one thing the mom kept saying. Oh, and the mom, you know, the mom's telling Lisa like, Johnny's the greatest. Like, you can't leave him. You know, and every time she comes over to the house, she tells her that. You know? I mean, I don't know that it's fair to critique it really because of what it's become. And it is a bad movie. I mean, you think that, I think that. Anybody that even loves it more than you do thinks that. I mean, it's just not a well-made film.
Yeah, I mean, it has the different things of like, I mean, especially the thing that always really gets me about this movie is like the third act. Like in the third act, you have like brand new characters that show up that have never been in the movie before. Like Steven shows up at one point, and you have Peter shows up at one point. Like it's amazing to me to see these random characters, like especially Steven, who like confronts Lisa at the at the party because she, and then like, I mean, like Lisa's character is like so reprehensibly written. Like she's having an affair with Mark, and then she's making up lies about Johnny, saying that he hit her and everything like that. And then she makes up that she's pregnant, but she's not.
Yeah, and she says it was like for fun or something, or to see what he would do or something like that. I'm like, what? And then the one time when he's like, I don't drink, and she like pours him this really stiff drink and gets him drunk, basically. Like, yeah, she is a horrid character, and you could tell that was.
Scene is she comes out. There's two different scenes where like whiskey glasses are involved in this movie that I love equally. The first one is that scene where she orders a pizza before he gets home from work. He comes home from work. She asks if he wants her to order a pizza. He says, yes, I want you to, or no, or I can't even remember his response. And then she's like, but I already ordered a pizza.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, you know me so well.
You think of everything. And like, but that scene, like, she brings out these whiskey glasses, which clearly already have what's implied to be like whiskey in them. Like it's brown liquor, or at least it looks like it. Then she tops it up with vodka.
Yeah.
And gives it to him. And that is I'm tired, I'm wasted, I love you, darling. Then later on in the movie, when he's talking to Peter in the apartment, he takes out those two same whiskey glasses and pours water into them from a water bottle. Like it's very clearly a water bottle, but he pours him like literally like it's like you would pour if you were pouring somebody like a single or a double of like hard liquor. Like literally pours like 2 ounces of water into this glass and hands it to him. And then they're both holding them like they're liquor, like literally
yeah.
The whole scene. It's so
yeah.
Good. It's so good.
There's so many like awkward things that I wanted to talk a little bit about the Disaster Artist too, because I did a double feature. I watched The Room and then I watched the Disaster Artist right after it. And
right after.
Yeah. And I think that actually made me kind of enjoy The Room a little bit more. Now I had seen the Disaster Artist a couple of years ago when it came out.
Yeah.
I didn't really remember a lot about it, but I had already seen it. But it was cool to connect the dots a little bit and to see the recreation of a lot of those kind of cringy scenes that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it also shed a little light on Tommy's like state of mind when he was making the movie or directing the film, especially, and the choices he was making, because like there's that one scene on the roof, which by the way, everything happening on this roof was really weird to me, but we'll get there, I guess. But
you mean this roof?
Yeah,
audio audience can't see it, but it's I've got that rooftop scene right behind me. My favorite thing about this scene here is this comes up in the Disaster Artist where they're like, why don't we just shoot outside? And Tommy was like, no, we have to make it like a real movie.
Right.
So this is green screened for no reason whatsoever. And
when
the
it's like
funniest part, every single time they have to leave the roof, they have to go into this weird shed thing that's built on top of the set. Like, and there's nothing in it. Like, it's clearly just a box that they have to walk into the scene.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Yeah, I have a couple things about this rooftop that like I paused it because I was like, what? I was like, how did this make it past the cutting room floor? But like, and that's what I was gonna say about the Disaster Artist, connecting the dots a little bit. But there's one scene when Mark is telling the story about this girl he dated and she got beat up or whatever by like 30 dudes. And Tommy just starts laughing.
Yep.
And
what a story, Mark.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember watching The Room when that movie, and I remember going, "Why is he laughing at that? Like, what?" And then I watched The Disaster Artist. They talk about that, and Seth Rogen's like, "Hey, dude, like maybe do it without laughing. It's not really a funny story." And you could tell Greg Sestero was upset too that it wasn't played a little more dramatically. But stuff like that, though, would play to your point a little bit earlier, what you were saying about Tommy's kind of masterminding it to be like this comedy or whatever. Because no one in their right mind, not that he was, but no one in their right mind would laugh at that story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he wants to say, another thing I want to ask you about this rooftop, Nick. Out of nowhere, okay, we have this weird love triangle going on. We have all this fucking sex happening all over the apartment, and on the stairs, and all these rose petals and shit, and everything's going on. And then out of nowhere, this fucking gangster guy shows up with a gun to Denny's head on the rooftop, wanting to know where his money is. And while he's fucking holding him up at gunpoint, the whole family appears on the rooftop, including the mother who has cancer or whatever. Like, where do they all come from? Why is everybody on the roof? Like, what? Nick, help me out here. Like, what? I'm not supposed to worry about this, right?
Excuse you. She definitely has breast cancer. Okay.
Yeah, she absolutely
she
does.
Definitely we don't has it. We don't learn anything else about that. There's no resolution to that plot whatsoever as we go through the film. It's Chris R, man. It's Chris R. And
Chris R.
Was it Zac Efron played him in Disaster?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's always like so. And then there's like my favorite part of that scene is always
what kind of money?
Like Lisa and her mother literally just like shrieking at Jenny.
Yeah.
Like on the roof, like just sitting there screaming at him.
What kind of drugs do you take?
Exactly. Just in his face. And I think this is the mom that's like, what kind of money is it? Or something like that. Like a question that doesn't even make any sense. Like, what do you mean, what kind of money? What are you talking about?
I mean, and the funny thing, too, is like, is she meets Denny, like, literally, like, barely before that, but, like, immediately, like, interjects herself into this kid's life. It's like, how did you get mixed up with drugs? It's like, lady, you just met this kid, like, 4 minutes ago.
Right.
You don't know anything about this kid.
Right. What was the deal with what was the deal with Denny? I mean, it's just a kid that lived next door to them, right? Like, I'm confused.
Yeah,
like, why was
Johnny wanted to adopt him? I guess.
Sure. Yeah. The whole thing is weird, man.
For whatever reason, and he's really, really got a thing for Lisa. Like, really wants to make out with her.
He's
wants
in love
to
with
jump
her
in bed while they're getting it on. Like, all that can like walks into the apartment at one point and is like, "Whoa, you look really good. Can I kiss you?"
Mm-hmm. That's a move. It doesn't work, Denny. I'll just tell you, it doesn't work. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. That's why I rate it 10 out of 10, because just thinking about it just brings me to tears of laughter. Like, because
I could see
yes,
that.
It's ridiculous, it's silly, it's dumb and everything, but my God, I enjoy my time with it. I enjoy my time with it so much, and I wear my heart on my sleeve as a person in life. And that's how I rate movies too. I rate my movies with my heart on my sleeve. Like, they are, my rating is a reflection of my emotional reaction to them. That's why I can go to a movie like this. I don't care how technically bad it is, because yes, it is flabbergastingly just terrible. Like, it is, like I said, like, you've got random characters that show up. Like, how about when the two characters show up at their apartment? You've never seen these characters before. They just come into the apartment, and then, like, the girl starts blowing him on the couch. Like, after they make out, like, swapping the chocolates and everything back and forth. It's like, you've never even seen these characters before. Ever. You have no idea who they even are. But they just randomly show up at the apartment and start going at it or whatever. And then Lisa and her mom show up. And then...
Well, the only other thing about the movie I just want to ask you about was the ending. And I want to know how that kind of sits with you, with him killing himself at the end, because, you know, I guess he can't be with Lisa, and his friendship with Mark and everything is falling apart. By the way, before we get there, though, one of the funniest things in the movie, and I want to ask you as a avid fan of this film, if this is one of the one-liners that people love. One of my most laugh out loud moments in this movie was a really subtle thing when Lisa calls Mark, and she's like, this is like first half of the movie, earlier part of the movie. And she's like, I really miss you. And he's like, what do you mean? I just saw you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Well, the great thing about that too is
I was cracking up.
That's right before he comes over, and then that's like the second sex scene in the movie. And so like she calls him, and he's basically just like, yeah, I'm really busy. What do you want? Like he's so bored.
Right.
He's just so like not interested in like the whole conversation they're having. And then literally the next scene is him showing up at the apartment, and then they get it on.
Yeah. He's like, what do you mean? I just saw you. I was cracking up. That one, and in a few minutes, bitch, when he's in the bathroom, I laughed at that one pretty hard too. Come out of the bathroom, Tommy. In a few minutes, bitch.
Oh God, I'm gonna die.
Oh man.
My God.
What about the ending? How did that sit with you? With him killing himself and?
Well, Gerald, everybody betray him. He's fed up with this world.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you want him to do? He didn't have no way out.
Yeah.
Like he loves Lisa so much, and like, you know, they're supposed to get married. And are you sure about that? Maybe I'll change ... my mind. Love that random pause in there. Maybe I'll change my mind.
Yeah. Man, I don't even know what else to say about The Room. I got to be honest. For me, in wrapping up, I am looking forward to seeing this again with a group of people. So there's something to be said for that, just kind of the novelty of it, and wanting to experience it that way, as opposed to trying to turn it down while my kids are sleeping on the couch in my house.
If there is ever a time that for whatever reason they're doing a screening of it at a theater near you, please buy a ticket and go. Some people nobody did at my screening, and I was kind of sad that I didn't think about it, but people will bring plastic spoons. Did you notice all the framed photos of cutlery in Tommy's apartment for no reason?
No, I wish I had.
It's literally like plastic spoons, like framed photos of plastic spoons and like cutlery and stuff. That's all over his apartment. So every time people see them in the theatrical screenings, they'll shout out spoons, and like sometimes if people have spoons, they'll throw them around the theater. And like when they played football, like all the random scenes of them playing football, like people will bring footballs to theaters and just toss the football back and forth.
I mean, they didn't have anybody that could tell them, like, hey guys, this is not how people throw footballs. There was nobody on set that could tell them that.
Oh my God. If it is ever playing in a theater, because it really is, it's a difficult thing to, especially because you know it's one of those kind of cult movies that's hyped up so bad it's good. People really, really love it in the way that I love it, like the way that I just derive so much pleasure. Like I can't even think about rating it anything but a 10 out of 10. Like I love it so
great,
much.
man.
I literally do. And like I think that like watching it by yourself, when you know the reputation it has, when you've already heard of it, when you've already got all that in your brain, but watching it alone and just kind of trying to watch it from a film criticism perspective, then it's no surprise to me that you come out of this like, what on earth are you people on?
Right. Yeah.
And like, you know, what are you smoking? And like 2 out of 10. Like that does not shock me or surprise me literally at all. And I think that if you can experience it, and maybe you still won't even like it, but I guarantee you're going to go to that movie, 100 minutes or whatever the runtime of this movie. I think it's about 100 minutes.
99.
You go to this movie, you will have the best time of your life in that 100 minutes in the theater, because it's that whole audience is just there for that vibe. People are just yelling out like random things. Like I kept doing it at my screening, like every time like Mark and Johnny would have different dialogues and stuff, and like me and like other people in the theater would just keep yelling out, but he's his best friend. Like, every time, because they say it so many times.
Can I ask you what you thought of it the first time you saw it? Do you remember that? Do you recall?
Oh God!
I mean, did it grow on you over time, or were you out of the gate?
It definitely grew on me over time. Because I think I kind of probably had the same reaction that you did. Not 2 out of 10 low, probably, but I think I probably had the same kind of reaction that you did, where I was just kind of off put by it. I was just like, wait, why do people like this? Like,
Right.
why do people enjoy this? But then I think it's one of those movies where, more so than a lot of other movies you'll ever hear or see or anything like that, it's one of those movies you just have to let it happen to you. You just have to let what it is going to do. You and see now, maybe, and I don't know, maybe we'll see what happens if it ever opens in the theater down there, or you ever see it like with a big group of people or whatever. It'll be interesting now that now that you've seen it, now that you experienced it. It'll be interesting to see how you react to it in a group, like in a group of people. If you're able to kind of let it go and just enjoy it for what it is, or if you'll still be like, what are these people? What's happening here?
The interesting thing to me, to your point there too, is that the fact that I gave it a 2 out of 10 and I thought it was a pretty awful movie, but I still want to see it again, kind of tells the tale of this film, really. I mean, I feel like this movie is more so about the experience of watching it as opposed to like the craft of the film itself. So this is my initial grade, but who knows, man? I'll give it another shot or another few shots and, try to have fun with it, because I'm not a super serious quote-unquote movie critic. I mean, I got no problem having fun when I watch films. I like a lot of shitty films that you probably hate and vice versa. So I'll give it another go, man. But for now, it's a 2 out of 10 for me and a 10 out of 10 for Nick on The Room, which I guess makes the P score. I don't know. What is that? It's a 6, correct? 6 out of 10, I think.
Wow.
It's a 6 out of 10 for our first roulette review.
Are you still hungover from like the vacation
I
and
am.
everything like that? Okay.
I am. I was drunk at a baseball game like 2 hours ago, so I had to get ready for the Room discussion. So
you should have been drunk to watch The Room. I mean, that probably.
I know. I should have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done it right there for that. But yeah, so still a passing grade. We're dragging up. See now how I'm going to drag down the average of all these horror movies. I'm going to drag up the average of your
Tommy Wiseau films.
Like your movies. Well, let's wait until I don't know when it comes out. It's either this year or next year. But Big Shark, Big Shark is his next movie.
Oh yeah. I remember that being announced. Yeah.
Cannot wait.
Gonna be crazy.
The problem's gonna be the problem is gonna be, and this is and it's been a long time since he's directed anything. He was in Best Friends, which I saw part 1 of. I saw a work print of it because we were pretty sure Loisos got chained to one of Greg Sestero's radiators at some point, but Loisos got access to a work print of Best Friends Volume 1 back in the EFG days, and I didn't dislike that. Like, Tommy doesn't direct that, but he's acting in it, and I think he's much better in that than he is in The Room in terms of his performance anyway, just because he's not directing himself. I never watched part 2 of that, though, but the worrisome thing about Big Shark could be, because it's him directing it, I don't think he's acting in it, actually. I'm pretty sure he's not. But because it's him directing it, like, if he intentionally tries to make a movie with this kind of tone, like the tone of The Room, like if he intentionally tries to make a quote-unquote bad movie, that's really going to be the testament, too, is like, what type of movie is he going to try to make? Is he going to give it an earnest effort to make a good movie, and then if it fails, it becomes like this, and it becomes just like a bad movie masterpiece like this? Or is he going to try to do something on the level of this, where he's going to try to replicate the success of The Room by creating this thing?
I agree, because The Room is definitely like an organic thing that happened because of the intent initially versus the reception from the public. So it was very organic in that way, because The Disaster Artist is really where I'm getting my take on this. But my take is that Tommy did not anticipate this to be made fun of and be a comedy and people to throw spoons in the theater.
Oh, no.
It was much more like, I think there was like a story going around at some point where he released it specifically so that it could be eligible for Oscars. Like that kind of like mentality when he released The Room. I mean, this was a serious movie to him. Yeah. And it became what it became, which is fine. And it's like you said, it's a cult phenomenon at this point. But if you try to do that from the outset with a movie like Big Shark, I don't think it would work, or it would be too obvious. So So
Yeah,
I agree with you.
I think it would, but yeah, you're exactly right. Like, I mean, he has tried to, like I said, he has tried to rewrite history and say, "Oh no, I meant it to be this ingenious bad movie masterpiece, black comedy." Like all along, no, he didn't. Like he definitely didn't. Like, and we know that. Like, you know, but like I said, I think there's a passion to it. I think no matter how little talent he may or may not have as a filmmaker, I think that passion is in there. And I think it was an earnest attempt at making something. And, you know, nothing for nothing, but I mean, at least he did something. At least he made something.
Yeah, and that's what I love too. Is that, you know, because speak to the disaster artists again, where they're like, you know, they couldn't get a break in Hollywood, so they're like, well, let's just make our own fucking movie. You know, Tommy had money from whatever he had it from, so they just did it themselves.
Nobody still knows. Nobody knows where the $6 million this movie had a budget of. $6 million. No one knows where the money for this movie came from. Nobody.
Wow. That adds to the craziness of just like what you see. Because if somebody says, I got an indie film that costs $6 million, you'll be like, that's probably pretty good. That's going to be good. And you sit down and you see this and you go, what?
For this movie, that budget is insane because where is that $6 million?
Exactly.
I mean, we know he bought a bunch of cameras that he didn't need to buy, like when he was making it. Yeah. And different things like that.
The sets.
I mean, $6 million. Really where on earth did that $6 million go? And where did it come from in the first place? Like, Tommy's still a really mysterious character. Like, nobody knows where he's from, like his country of origin, like where, because obviously he moved to the United States at some point. Nobody knows where he's from. Nobody knows where he got all this money to invest in making The Room. Who knows?
It's a mystery.
Who knows?
Well, that was the two-piece discussion on Tommy Wiseau's The Room. Nick, thanks for choosing it, man. We're going to roll the roulette wheel, I think, again next week. When we discuss Blue Beetle, we will throw up the wheel and give it another spin. But in the meantime, as always, Nick, we go over to the comments section and see what the fans had to ask us in relation to the movie or something tangentially related to The Room. And we got a lot of kind of comedic takes over there, which you would expect.
Yeah. Not surprised.
But I kind of have an easy one for me. And I kind of wanted to use it for my question. Then I'll see which question you chose, if that's cool with you. But our buddy Jared Taylor, Destruction in Human Form, patron of the show, the absolute man. I love Jared, as I know you do as well. But he just says, which is better, The Room or The Disaster Artist? And I actually responded to his comment that says, this is the layup of questions. So I went back on my letterbox when I saw The Disaster Artist when it came out initially, and I had given that a 4 out of 5 at the time, which would essentially be an 8 out of 10. I absolutely loved that movie. I love the authentic approach, like we already talked about, of Franco, and I also thought it was kind of special that he cast his brother in the best friend / Greg Sestero role there. And it was just a really genuine recreation that, like you said, it wasn't mocking The Room. It was paying homage to it, but was also kind of telling us how ridiculous it was. And I thought it was done beautifully, and it was it's one of my favorite biopics in recent years. It's one of my favorite movies about Hollywood, if you can kind of put it in that category.
Yeah.
I think it's just really, really well done. And I think seeing The Room and The Disaster Artist back to back, like I did this past weekend, makes it even better because I can finally kind of bring it all together. Because when I saw it initially, I only knew about The Room and had seen some clips and stuff, and but I had never seen The Room entirely. So easy answer, Jared. For me, it's The Disaster Artist. Nick, I wanted to see what you had to say about this because it's kind of an interesting question for somebody that's in love with The Room. What do you think?
I think it's kind of like you said. I think that when they made The Disaster Artist, they didn't make it to mock The Room. They made it because they genuinely love it. They genuinely love it, and they told the story of all the crazy behind the scenes and how it's not in terms of a standard film well made by any sense of the imagination. But yet, I think they tapped into a little bit of the passion that Tommy clearly had when he made this movie, when he made The Room. For me, I think I have to pick The Room only because The Disaster Artist wouldn't exist without it. There would be no story to tell there. There would be no book that Greg Sestero wrote about his experience working on the movie. And I think that passion that you see in the Disaster Artist, I think that is born of their love of the room, and that I think stems from what they see in the movie as well, which is, again, that earnest effort, that passion to actually try to just get out there and make a movie, even though it's cuckoo bananas.
Sure, yeah.
So I got to pick the room on that one. I got to pick the room only because, like I said, the Disaster Artist would not exist without it.
I get it. All right, man. What? Go ahead and grab a question out of the comment section for yourself this week. What do you want to throw out there?
Well, see, I was going to pick Jason Nerd Revert's question between where do you draw the line between So Bad It's Good and This Is Hot Garbage, but I think I kind of just answered it, because to me, hot garbage is that soulless, like, we're all just showing up for a paycheck, we're phoning this in, we're not even trying, and we're just trying to cash it in. The soulless corporate Hollywood products that we get a lot when we get, especially like these superhero movies anymore, which are just like such like massive, huge budget things. It's just like they don't have anything really special or anything like that about them anymore. I think that kind of movie, I think that when you as an audience can feel, you can tell. Think about Barbie, okay? When we saw Barbie, like, there was an earnest attempt there to make something that, like, Greta Gerwig was really passionate about. Mm-hmm. Like, there was clearly passion poured into every single inch of that movie, from production, from literally every aspect of it. Like, that was clearly a movie that was made with passion, and I think that's why it's resonating so much with audiences, and that's why it's continuing to be the juggernaut that it is, because it's really, really well made, and people really feel like it was a really passionate effort. And yeah. I think when it's not, I think you can tell. And I think that's where you start to teeter into hot garbo territory for me. I think when you have a movie that somebody clearly applied themselves to passionately, that's when it starts to tip over into that line of So Bad It's Good. You can start to enjoy it, maybe in an ironic way or whatever. But at the very least, like, they tried, they cared, And I think I'm sorry. Trying and caring in this world is by far like the most important thing about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that to kind of throw my quick answer at Nerd Revert's question there, I think that it really kind of comes down to the eye of the beholder too, because
yeah, for sure.
When I was talking about the Pauly Shore movies earlier, like, there's a ton of people that hate those movies. I just love them. I watch Son-in-Law and I go, this movie sucks. This is a bad movie. But I enjoy it so much. I love it. I rewatch it all the time. And you probably feel the same way about a movie like The Room. Yeah. So it really kind of just comes down to, like, your personal preference, or like when it hits you in your life, because I think a movie can be both hot garbage and So Bad It's Good. Like, it's just kind of depends on who's watching it and what it means to them. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So thanks, guys, for all the... Yeah, and thanks, guys, for all the comments this week in the comment section, all the questions. We got a couple of How's Your Sex Lives? Which was great. And then Amanda, dear friend of the show, said, has anyone ever thrown a football around like these people in real life? I don't think so. We touched on that a little bit earlier. Next week on the show, Nick, now you were talking about soulless cinema. All right. Not to give away any spoilers, because I have seen it already, and I'm excited to actually talk about it with you next week. But we're going to review DC's latest Blue Beetle. All right. I assume you have not seen it yet, Nick, or have you? Not yet.
No, and my God, just the idea that I have to drag myself to a theater to see another superhero movie. Let me tell you,
check it out, and then we'll talk about it next week. Check it out, and then we'll talk about it next week. We're going to be doing the Blue Beetle next week, guys, and I saw it with my son, and I will hold my thoughts until you and I get together next week, and then we're also going to spin the wheel again next week and find out what our next Roulette review is going to be. We hope you enjoyed the one this week for The Room. Nick, as always, brother, I would say a quote from The Room, but I can't think of one. As always, what's something Greg says to Tommy in The Room that I could use here?
Cheep, 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 cheep.
I got nothing else. I got nothing else.
I got nothing. Thanks for making me watch The Room, I guess. I appreciate you.
You must be kidding, aren't you?
I am glad at the very least that now you've seen it, and now, like I said, if it comes in a theater, you buy that ticket. Buy that ticket. Go see it.
Yeah, I'll have to go check it out in the theater for sure. All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next week when we talk Blue Beetle. Nick,
Peace.
I love you. I'll see you then, man.